Namaste, Jai Hind everyone. Welcome to MNK The Eagle View. Today's topic is about the Israel HAMAS war or a conflict, whichever way we want to see it. There are a few interesting developments and there are a few geopolitical lessons we have here. So, when this thing happened some 47 days before, we all know initial first week or so, it seemed to be like all the Islamic nations and all the Islamists around the world were in support of Hamas and Palestine, and it was in fact Turkey's Prime Minister Erdogan went ahead and said, is it like are we going to start a crusade war, the war between the Christian world and the Muslim world. So that's how it was painted, portrayed. Lot of statements, emotions, rants, everything was coming up in the media, now spoken none other than by the leaders of these countries. So when a leader of a country speaks, definitely it adds some weightage, we can't deny it. So this was going on for quite some time, and then we saw the Al-Shifa hospital attacked. There was a missile which went and hit. There were conflicts in terms of controversies in terms of how many people got killed. Who had fired the missile? Is it Islamic Jihad? Is it Israeli Air Force? So this again, the third phase of the war was a ground invasion. We saw a few Merkava tanks being captured and blown out by Hamas, and we also saw heavy bombing by Israeli Air Force and ground operations, Israeli commandos doing a house entry operation, those kind of stuff. Very highly pitched combat, we would summarize it. Now, what is the exit for this? Now, as we told yesterday, there is an exit strategy for this. This war has to supposed to end somewhere, but we need to take cognizance of some important event that had happened in the Arab world. That is the Arab OIC summit. All the Arab nations met with an objective to find a solution for this problem. So whenever these countries meet, there is a joint statement which comes up. The joint statement per se says that all the countries are aligned with whatever written in the joint statement. Now there are 3 to 4 phases of this joint statement. First, they all unanimously name Israel as occupying force. Second, they have condemned the act of Israelis' collective punishment, which is like killing both Hamas terrorists and also the civilians if they don't distinguish. And then they have condemned the reckless military action over the Gaza and its hospitals and educational institutions, children and women. So these 3 things are common. Fourth thing is they call for an immediate ceasefire and then provision of aids to Palestinian people. So that is again there. And the fifth one is a 2-nation theory. Now the first four are very specific to this particular conflict, which has happened which has started 45 days before. The major one is a 2-nation theory, and nowhere they have mentioned a word of support to Hamas. Now this is I would say a very, very critical thing which we need to see. Absolutely there is no mention of Hamas either supporting it or opposing it. Second, it also stresses on a permanent solution, which has been quite in talk for quite some time, but they said whenever the conflict, a major wound, it's a time actually, you think of solutions. When you see blood and bloodshed, that's the time you see that enough is enough, let's go for have some peace in this place. So these are the major areas which they have condemned it. So immediate call of ceasefire, permission of humanitarian aids inside Gaza, removal of occupational forces, which is the removal of Israeli forces from Gaza, and collective punishment. These are the 4 things which broadly they criticized about Israel. Now what happened inside is there are a couple of countries like Qatar, like specifically Iran, they wanted few strong actions against Israel. So these are the actions. First is cutting off of diplomatic ties with Israel. There is no business we have to do with Israel. Cut off all the diplomatic ties. Second, don't sell crude oil to Israel. Third, economic sanctions and restrictions, trade restrictions on Israel. Fourth, stop buying arms and ammunition from Israel. These are the 4 major ones. Now let's take the first one. Cutting off of diplomatic ties. When there is a conflict, it's always better to speak. The conflict is a time where the countries have to speak more. So the majority of these countries except Iran was not in favor of this. They voted against it. So the diplomatic ties between Israel and the Arab world is going to continue. Second, about cutting down of crude oil, which again all these countries said it is not possible, we are not going to do it. It is too severe on Israel. This will open up other threats. Third, trade ties and this thing. So trade ties per se, what Israel takes from the Arab world is oil. What Israel gives is technology in terms of farming, agriculture, lot many other things. So they don't want to lose their growth story, a non-oil growth story in this fact. So no country would want to agree to it. So that was also nullified. Now fourth is import of arms and ammunition from Israel and export of arms to Israel, both ways. Look at a country like Azerbaijan, which is part of this OIC. Azerbaijan, 60% import comes from Israel. Arms import comes from Israel. We know there is a conflict between Azerbaijan and Armenia which is happening there. Now, will Azerbaijan take a risk of doing this? Obviously, it cannot, because it will elsewhere lose its own front with Armenia. So, all these were knocked off. So, there is no, the common binding factor of all these countries is that all of them are Islamic nations. The religion binds them. But when you look at the outcome of this conference, it's very, very clear. Religion has no play. The ideology or a religion-based approach, we all are Muslim countries, we are Islamic nations, we are together and we are going to fight together. The so-called brotherhood just doesn't exist. This is the best example which we can say. Every country looks for itself. Saudi wants to have a peace with Israel and Iran as well. It wants to be at a stable place. End of the day, it's a monarchy. Qatar does the same. UAE is thinking of a non-oil revenue, because we know what's the story is going to happen after 2035 or so. So they are looking at growth trajectory for which they need Israel and Western nations. So none of these countries are it's called as an OIC or an Arab meet, but at the end of the day, religion is not a factor when a nation takes a decision, especially their foreign policy. That's clearly evident. And the slow drift of Iran from supporting Hamas. In the initial first 10 days, it said Hamas is going to do this. They in fact congratulated Hamas. Iranian parliament celebrated the Hamas strike. Now you slowly see that Hamas is getting orphaned. They are very, very clearly moving away. Iran is moving away from Hamas. They will continue to provide them arms and ammunition, shelter. That's okay. But a principal support to Hamas has been done with. It's almost going to end. So why Iran has done it? Iran, by using Hamas as a leverage with US in terms of their nuclear developmental program, the nuclear fuel per se. So if I play this card well, I can move an inch towards attaining my nuclear ambitions. So Iran and America is in talks. We know that there is a waiver which was given to Iran. A sanction was lifted and Iran was allowed to take its money. It's around $3 to $4 billion of money from a frozen account. So this was done. So Iran is also getting, or it's kind of got what it wants from US by showing Hamas. Now this card has already been played. Now supporting Hamas helps them, not is going to help them anywhere. Hamas also have realized this very, very strongly. That is why Hamas has come into a truce agreement with Israel. So this web is very, very clear now. The major countries, Saudi doesn't want this war to continue. It doesn't want this war to spill over. They don't want a repeat of 1990. We know what happened in 1990 when the Gulf War happened. Similarly, Qatar and UAE, they also don't want to get into this conflict. There are more number of Muslims, lakhs and lakhs of Muslims who have been killed than non-Muslims in this entire Arab war and the Middle East conflict which is happening for the past 3 decades. That's what the statistics say. All these countries have realized it. Even Iran is not playing a Islamic card here. They clearly had got what they want from America. Now Hamas is kind of being orphaned, or it's like 90% orphaned now. Hamas is at its weakest point today. Their ground infrastructure has been, literally been destroyed by the US, the Israeli Defense Forces. Israel too have a problem here. Israel has to have an exit strategy from the war. So the line of success we call, what is that which will make Israel announce that we have succeeded in our mission, is by destroying the ground infrastructure and denying the Hamas the capability to strike back Israel possibly in the next 5 to 10 years. We don't know what will happen after 10 years, which player, which country will support them, that's a different story. Now there is a joker in the cards, pack of cards, that is Pakistan. Pakistan till date have been so vocal about supporting Palestine, and they were doing a lot of rallies in Peshawar, Karachi. PTA has been openly supporting Palestinians. There are a lot of pro-Hamas supporters which is happening. Pakistanis settled elsewhere in UK. They are also have been vocal in US, UK, America. They are participating in protests. Their national dailies are writing almost an editorial on a day-to-day basis. They are giving a war update more than their internal update. That's the beauty of it. They don't have food to eat. They are depending on IMF loans and Chinese loans to pay their salaries for the next month. But these buggers are very, very happy to kind of fill their front page of the newspapers with the Israel HAMAS conflict. Silently, they are also supplying 155 artillery ammunition to Israel. So there is a report which said the planes from UK, the military aircraft from UK landed in Pakistan. They picked up the Pakistani 155 artillery ammunition because artillery was heavily used by Israel in the first few days of war. So with that level of ammunition expenditure, you are about to run out of your war reserve, maybe a 7 to 12 days of war reserve, you will be running out of it, you need more replenishment. So Pakistan on one side, ideologically they want to kind of show themselves as an Islamic nation who want to support Hamas, who are there for support of Palestine. But the very same country is supplying ammunition to Israel, which is actually killing the Palestinians and Hamas. So that's we call them as a joker in the pack of cards. This hypocrisy and this stupidity, or I would say shrewdness, has been called out by various people, by various leaders. Even a very common citizen who's following the geopolitics is calling them out on Twitter and Facebook in the social media. So the joker will always remain a joker. Pakistan has got no place to hide. Their geopolitical relevance is almost zero now. They're trying to find their strategic importance. So-called this countries always say like, "Hame kuch ho gaya to kya hoga?" Like the world will fall. We can't be like left alone. The Pakistan cannot be extinct. It has to live. Otherwise, what will happen to the world? Without us, the world will not. So this buggers think that the world revolves around them. All the 9 planets revolve around them, which is not a fact. They are geopolitically irrelevant now. They are kind of a satellite state of China. China, we don't know how far they'll keep on investing in Pakistan. There is absolutely no return which is coming from Pakistan, apart from territorial capturing in Pakistan, which in a way they are doing it because keeping India in mind. That's absolutely of no political relevance as such. So geopolitically, we see this countries, the Arab nations and OICs want this conflict to end, and they are decoupling Hamas with Palestine. So two-nation theory is what they believe. India also strongly supports two-nation theory, but all these Islamic nations have clearly distanced themselves from Hamas. The last nation to do so was Iran. To counter this joint statement by OIC Arab nations, Palestine said, please do also mention about, Israel said, please do also mention about Hamas and Hamas atrocities and call Hamas as a terrorist. So, any pro-Palestine support, like I would give you an example. In Saudi, couple of days before, there was a pro-Palestine support or kind of a voice which was happening in their holy site, Mecca and Medina. Immediately they were arrested. The Saudi does this action ruthlessly. So it's clear that these countries don't want Hamas, and they see Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis as a nuisance to them. These major groups like Islamic Jihad, they all are destabilizing the region. It gives them a window for the Western powers to come in with their military and do a military action, a prolonged military action. We saw it in Syria, we saw it in Yemen, we saw it in Jordan, we saw it in Kuwait, we saw it in Iraq. Everywhere. So this is not the situation what the Arab countries want to be in, because all of them are kingdom based. If their population gets ideologically radicalized, if their population goes out of control, these kingdoms and monarchies may fall like a pack of cards anytime. So they do realize this threat. So the radicalization process somewhere started in the Middle East. Now the de-radicalization process again has to start from the Middle East only. It has to go everywhere. for the world to be a better place. Hope these countries have, I think these countries have realized this, the de-radicalization process is slowly on. Hope this area comes into a peaceful, at least non-war period in the coming days. Otherwise, it's going to impact all of us, including one like you and me, because we import 83% of our crude oil from these countries. So any disturbance there, political, geopolitical, political instabilities, conflicts, wars, is going to affect us and our economy very, very badly. So now we are very, very clear. It is not ideology, it is not religion. Every country thinks for its own strategic dominance. Every country thinks for its own. They don't. Maybe they kind of show a picture that everything is religion based or we are like brothers in this thing. Nothing is going to work. This video is one best example for what has been happening in Gulf so far. Let's hope peace prevail very soon. Thank you all. Jai Hind.